Hey everyone, I'm Nathaniel. Today I'm going to talk to you about my perspective on COVID-19 right now as a 17-year-old. I've been working at a coronavirus research lab this summer, and I want to share some things I've learned. Most of what I'm going to tell you may be obvious to you, but maybe a few things I will say will surprise you. I will approach this in a format beginning with what most of us have probably heard or read, then a discussion on it. So, one thing I'm sure most of us have heard or read is that the SARS-CoV-2 virus is a novel coronavirus. I think that the people who say this mean that they were not aware of it until recently, or that the latest mutations are new. Since the virus shares a fair amount of similar amino acid sequences with other known coronaviruses, it would not be considered new in the sense of, say, a brand new invention, but it might be considered new in the sense of the latest and greatest model of the iPhone, which is pretty similar to the previous one. You can't fool the immune system easily, and with some unfortunate exceptions, the human immune system will not see the SARS-CoV-2 virus as novel or new. Some people are essentially immune to the virus, suggesting they were previously exposed to a virus, or multiple viruses very much like it. Logically, just because you haven't encountered something doesn't really mean it is new or that you haven't encountered something similar. So, one thing I've read and what most people believe is that we need a vaccine that gives you completely neutralizing antibodies to the virus. Some of you, including me, wish to have an exotic Italian car for your daily transportation, but there are many other options that will be able to transport you in a satisfactory way. The fact is, we don't measure antibody because that's the only way the immune system fights viral infections. We measure antibody because we can do it more easily than measuring T lymphocyte or NK cell responses, which are other types of bodily defenses. The result of an antibody test is an imperfect representation of the whole immune response a person may have to an illness. We would all like to have neutralizing antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, but there are other immune responses that are sufficient to avoid serious illness or death. Let's not let our idea of the super perfect solution keep us from using a fairly satisfactory one. What we really need right now is more immunity to the virus. We do know some people do not get sick when exposed to the SARS-CoV-2 virus, or if they do get sick, they don't die, even though they never received a man-made coronavirus vaccine. I believe they received many natural vaccines by getting previous illnesses which have given them cross-reactive immunity and protection. While they may have sufficient immunity, how can we all have sufficient immunity during the time no perfect vaccine exists? Okay, so many medical researchers in our own government have been telling us that the vaccine will be ready in a short time, maybe 6 months or a year. The truth is, maybe not. If you look into the history of various coronavirus vaccines, they're not so easy to come up with. Some coronaviruses cause cold symptoms. There is no vaccine yet for the common cold caused by these coronaviruses. Many animal coronaviruses that have been around for decades still don't have vaccines that give the animals full immunity. The first SARS-CoV-2 caused human disease nearly 2 decades ago. There is still no vaccine. A similar disease called Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS, also has no vaccine. So, how long will it take to make and to distribute a magic bullet vaccine that works for all people? I don't know. I've read, you've read, and the government has said that shelter in place works. Truth is, nobody lied to you about that. It was stated from the beginning that this was to flatten the curve and avoid overwhelming healthcare systems in the food supply chain. It really has nothing to do with you or the total number of persons who will contract the disease and die. The only hope is that if a person shelters in place long enough for a vaccine to be made, approved, and distributed, some people may have avoided the illness and possible death. But this assumes something will happen quickly. The real truth is that it works temporarily to avoid the rapid spread of the virus. But this approach has a built-in long-term problem because it results in reduced exposures to colds and upper respiratory infections, which help your immune system stay strong. Normally, the average adult has 2 to 4 colds or upper respiratory infections every year, and children may have as many as 12 per year. These viruses serially stimulate immune systems which continue to develop responses to the various viruses encountered. They can also help people develop cross-reactive immunity. We all need these exposures, which are in a sense live virus vaccines. But some immunity doesn't last very long. COVID-19 antibodies have been reported to drop off after only a few months. So consider this. After sheltering in place for 6 months, the average person has avoided not only COVID-19, but also the other colds and illnesses they normally would have gotten. After such a long time sheltering in place, do you think your immune system will be more ready to fight COVID-19 or less ready? Think about what happened to the passengers on the Diamond Princess cruise ship earlier this year compared to the fates of many people in nursing homes recently. The average ages of these people are within a decade or two. Neither are young. So, what's the difference? The people on the cruise ship were out and about, interacting with others and getting their usual colds. The reports change, but recent data shows that of 3,711 passengers on the cruise ship, 712, or 19%, became ill and 13 died. That is, only 0.35% of the total passengers died. In my county, Redwood Springs Healthcare Center, a 176-bed facility, had 107 residents with COVID-19, resulting in at least 26 deaths. That is 15% deceased out of the total residents. People in nursing homes are confined. They are not just old. They are not just weak. The truth is, they were not out and about and getting the normal number of colds. Okay, so many of you have heard that we need to find the secret younger people have that keeps less of them from dying. Scientists haven't figured out why younger people haven't been dying when they get COVID-19. Why did one of my elderly relatives spend 46 days in the hospital relying on oxygen after getting the virus, while some friends of my family with children spent less than a week feeling sick at home? The secret is in large part sneezes and nasal secretions. All the kids in school get lots of viral illnesses. These kids fortunately share all those illnesses with each other and with their parents. Notice, I said fortunately. Kids immunize their parents and grandparents by sharing their viruses with them. But do grandparents visit grandchildren on purpose when their grandkids are ill? Usually not. But they need to do it for their own good. Young people have essentially been vaccinated by natural live viruses and have cross-reactive protection to COVID-19 since they started school, and even before that if they have older siblings in the family. The question is not who will be exposed, but who is less likely to survive COVID-19. The answer is people who have insufficient immunity or no cross-reactive immunity. These are people who live alone, people who work alone, people who retire alone, mainly people who are not out and about constantly getting immunized by natural live viruses of lesser virulence. Their immune systems are not primed and ready to fight COVID-19. For those of us who are ready, COVID-19 is like getting a booster vaccine we barely notice. So what is the answer? In the short term, the government can't help you, and neither can the researchers who haven't figured anything out yet. In order to survive the virus without serious issues, you must have an immune system ready to fight when you are eventually exposed to COVID-19. In my next installment, which there will be one, I will hopefully be able to give you more useful information from the front lines of lab work. See you later.